Hello everyone, I hope you've had a good week. My name is Jake and my channel is Jake Trades and Invests, where I do a weekly dive into the markets and commodities and look at where prices have moved, as well as where I think prices may be headed in the short to medium term. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and jump into the first chart here. We're going to look at the dollar index to start off. So this week, the dollar has continued to sell off slowly back into this longer term support zone. I'm going to zoom out here. We can see that this area has had the price bounce in these areas in previous years over the last decade or so. And we're currently hitting into that zone now. We're just above the 200 moving average on a monthly time frame, so there's a chance that we're going to consolidate in this area and bounce a little bit. But I think overall, with macroeconomics and politics going on right now, I think the dollar over term is going to lose some strength here. You can see pretty much since the beginning of the year, the dollar has just been selling off pretty hard and it's been steady. So I think that is going to continue for the dollar in the medium term, but in the short term, it looks like we've taken out these lows here. We've got a couple hammer candles down here in this support area. It's a chance that we're going to get a bounce here in the short term, meaning in the next couple of weeks. I had been talking about that a couple of weeks back where we were touching the zone and then bounced off of it. And I was thinking we would come back up around $100 and get to the 50 moving average, but we didn't quite make it there as we sold off this week. But doesn't mean that we can't still bounce and consolidate in this area in the short term. So with that said, we'll hop over to gold and take a look at gold. So what's interesting is that the dollar sold off this week, but gold has also continued to sell off this week. We are back around the moving average for gold, and I think we're still just kind of consolidating here after hitting our 3,500 all-time high. So I'm going to zoom out and take a look at the weekly chart. On the weekly, we're pretty overextended from the moving average, which is not unusual. We're steadily above that normally on the weekly chart, but I think as long as 3,200 around that area can hold as support, we may just kind of consolidate sideways for a little bit to let all of this momentum here kind of chill out before continuing to the upside. But I do think the fundamentals behind gold are really strong, and I think gold's going to continue the up move in the short to medium term. So yeah, I think gold is a good place to be, especially if it can come down around 3,200 and show some support around in this area. I think that would be a good opportunity to buy into gold or gold stocks. I'm going to just put a little rectangle here in this area. So yeah, I think price may come down to that area in the next week or two. For silver, kind of the same thing as gold. It's just kind of consolidating sideways for right now. We've just been bouncing back and forth over the last few weeks. It looks like there's some pretty strong buying coming in at this $35, $36 level, like we did with the other charts. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. As you can see, $50 has been our all-time high. I'll go back even further on the monthly chart. So we've got $50 running across here as our all-time highs twice, and it looks like we're making our way back up there over the next few years. Again, that's few years, not in a couple of weeks. But silver is looking really strong at the moment. Going back to the weekly chart, if you follow similar channels to what I follow and keep up with the metals, everyone's talked about this breakout here over the last year or so, and just the strong pushes up and the continued momentum to the upside. And we're just continuing to break into new highs in this bull run. And so right now we're sitting above our most recent breakout and consolidating. So that's a good sign. We may continue to consolidate for another couple of weeks here in this area, but this is a good time to buy into it as the moving averages are heading higher, showing that we're in the uptrend. Platinum has been super strong over the last few months. We've been talking about it, and I've been waiting for a larger pullback, and we haven't really gotten one. I thought this candle here from a couple of weeks ago was going to be it, where we would kind of pull back and consolidate here. That didn't happen. Again, I thought it was going to happen a week later with this large selling candle. It didn't happen. So maybe this candle from Friday's close that is a bearish engulfing candle here, maybe that one will be it to start this consolidation and let some of this momentum die out. I don't want it to die out, but I think with this such a large move here, it at some point is going to have to consolidate sideways for a little while. That being said, though, with the momentum behind it, it can continue to push higher. It doesn't have to stop. It doesn't have to consolidate. So what I'm looking for is if it does finally pause and consolidate and pull back a little bit, that would be a place where I'm going to add to positions that I already have open. So that's really what I'm waiting for. I'm in platinum. I've been in platinum. I think platinum's a really good trade for the medium term here. So I don't want to miss out on any moves, but I would like to add to my positions if I can get a consolidation going and a little bit of a pullback here. It's possible we could kind of hang around 1300. Looking back across the weekly chart, we've got some areas where we've been in that zone before. So I think it's likely we can kind of hang out in this 1350 to 1300 area for a little while. Go back down to a daily. It's possible this could be the area here that we hang out in for a couple of weeks, maybe let these moving averages catch up, and show that buyers are stepping in on the pullbacks. That would be what I would look for the continued strength in platinum. Moving on to copper, we were consolidating sideways over the last couple of weeks, and I was saying this looked like a really good area to buy into copper, and so far that's been true. This week we've pushed back up above $5, above $5.10, and it looks like we want to head back up to our most recent high of $5.37. I don't think it'll take too long before we get there. I'm going to zoom out onto the weekly. Copper's kind of in this channel similar to the dollar that we looked at that goes back at least a decade or so. But right now copper is looking good. It looks like we've had a pretty long consolidation over the last couple of years, and we finally broke out of that. We started to break out in this area and quickly pulled back, but we've worked our way back up, and this week we've got a really strong green candle here pushing its way higher. So I think copper looks good to continue its rise up. Over the medium to longer term, it looks like we could be heading up towards this $6.50, $7 an ounce for copper in the short to medium term, I should say. So just watch for that. I think this entry here was a good time to get in and just hold it and ride the wave up. And we'll go over to oil. So oil was looking great the last couple of weeks. We had finally broken out of this downtrend here, gotten above the moving averages up until this week when we had some news come out and things that kind of manipulated the market back down and slapped it back down really hard. So I think at the moment oil's gonna kind of hold itself down, which I don't like to see, as I am in some oil trades to the long side. So unfortunately, I thought we were good going for the breakout, and then it got rejected and came back. So uh, I don't think it'll be long before we're back up above our resistance zone here, but we've got to let things in the geopolitical world kind of die down, and we'll see if that happens. But for now, oil could be a good chance to buy into it if it's going to continue to move back up to the upside. For natural gas, I've been talking about how this $3.50 area has been a good zone, looking like a good zone to buy into. This week we pulled down below our recent lows, kind of a false breakdown, came down and touched the 200 moving average, and then bounced off of that on Thursday and Friday and are heading back higher. So again, I still think natural gas looks okay in the short term. I think it's going to continue to push up, especially once we get through the summer months and into fall and winter when demand for natural gas typically increases. I think the price is going to continue to head higher. For the S&P 500, we've had another strong week of gaps and pushing higher. They're not huge candles, but still the momentum appears to be to the upside. Looks like we've hit an all-time high on Friday, which is really cool. And I think for now, there's nothing overhead, so the S&P looks good to continue its way to the upside. I want to take a look at the equal weighted index and just see how that's compared to the overall index. So all of the stocks in the S&P on this exchange here are equal weight. And it looks like overall we've got participation across the market. We're breaking out of this triangle pattern here. And Friday we broke out and are sitting above it. So to me it looks like it's good to continue its way up. And so that looks pretty good for the overall stock market in general. Now to the Nasdaq, same story. We've pretty much just run our way up this week. We've hit all-time highs at 22,600. So again, a good sign. The markets are looking strong for the time being. Again, there's always the chance that we reverse, and I've been talking about it for weeks now. We've got yet another gap below us. We've got gaps here, gaps here. So gaps tend to get filled at some point, but it's hard to predict when that would be. And I'm not going to try to predict that. Just be aware that there are several pretty large gaps that have shown over the last couple of months as these rallies have occurred. So if we were to get some kind of news that would send the market back down like it did in February, it's possible that these gaps below us are going to get filled. So just be wary of that. The Dow, same story as the other two indices. We've had a really strong week this week. The Dow looked like it was in a good position of the indices that I review. The Dow was looking the strongest to me as far as a good risk to reward buying opportunity, as it was sitting just above these moving averages the last few weeks and consolidating here. So this last week or the week before would have been a good time to buy into this, as it was sitting above the moving averages, and those moving averages were turning higher, and the shorter term ones were crossing the longer term ones. So for now, like the other indices, the Dow looks good to continue its uptrend. We haven't quite made it back up to our all-time highs yet, but if the other indices are going to keep pushing higher, I would think another week or two and we'd be back up at these $45,000 level on the Dow. And the Russell, same story. We've been consolidating above the moving averages, and we've continued to push up this week. Not as strong as the other indices, but overall we're still pushing higher. So a little bit more consolidation here might be coming, and then I think we'll continue to push higher as long as the other indices do as well. We're still quite a bit of ways from our all-time high of 2466. So if the price could pull back around 2120, 2100 this week or next week, it could be a good chance to get in at a good risk to reward entry, to where you could cut losses just below here, down at some previous support resistance areas, and then you have all this upside back up to the all-time highs and higher. And lastly, we'll look at Bitcoin here. We've had a pretty strong week this week. We've came down around 100,000. I put this box in last week, I believe, to say this was the level to watch as we've bounced around here a couple of times. And it looks like we kind of false broke down below that level and immediately shot back up and continued this week bouncing higher to end kind of sideways on Friday, but that's a lot of momentum. So this is a very small candle. I think Bitcoin looks good to continue its rise. And again, this is a lot of, it depends on weakness in the dollar. So if the dollar gets the bounce like I was talking about earlier when we were looking at the Dixie chart, we could see another little bit of pullback and consolidation in Bitcoin. But I think if the dollar is going to have some weakness in the short to medium term, like I'm thinking it will, then Bitcoin looks good to continue its rise higher. I'm just going to draw kind of a little channel here, something like this. So we've got a little bit of a flag pattern kind of forming here. So it's possible we'll kind of stay in this area for now. And again, we've got this support running around 100,000, which is a good psychological level. So we'll see in the coming weeks how Bitcoin continues to perform in this general area here. But I think overall it looks good to eventually continue its rise to the upside. So with all of that said, that's all I've got for this week. I hope you enjoyed the content, found something valuable from it. If you liked the content, please hit the like button below. I would appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, leave a comment on your thoughts on the markets or the commodities, where you think they're going, if you think the analysis is accurate or not. If you haven't already, check out last week's video to see how the analysis held up in performance this week. And as always, I'll see you again next week. Thanks. Have a good week.